Good afternoon, everybody. This is Debbie Horovitch from Social Sparkle and Shine, and I am so happy to welcome you back to another episode of Sparkle SOS, Book Authors and Publishers. This is my signature hangout show that started everything. And what we do here is we get together a panel of clients and guests and people that I know within my community who are working on their books and working on their speaking careers, and we get together with someone who is really, really accomplished every month, and we have the opportunity to mastermind around the hangout and really to provide some solutions to the challenges that we all face within the audience, on the panel. Myself, if you don't know me, I'm Debbie Horovitch, and I would say I'm an aspiring book author and an experienced publisher, which might sound a little bit weird, but I've been playing around with publishing professionally on Amazon for a couple of years and have been working on writing my own books. But where I struggle mostly is with fear and self-confidence and things like that. So I love to know that whenever I try something, it usually results in a positive outcome, and so we're here to always keep on growing and keep on learning. So the first thing I'll do is let you in the audience know who our guest is. For this episode, I'm really happy to be welcoming back Bob Burg, who has been on the show in the past. And to really let you know who he is, I will read to you his introduction. So it says, "Can a subtle shift in focus really make that big of a difference in your business and in your income?" And our guest says, absolutely yes. Bob is the author of a number of books on sales, marketing, and influence, and with a total book sales of well over 1 million copies. So he knows what he's talking about when it comes to experience in books. His book, The Go-Giver, co-authored with John David Mann, has sold over 500,000 copies, and it has been translated into 21 languages. It has been reissued in a new expanded edition with a foreword by Huffington Post founder and publisher Arianna Huffington. Bob is an advocate and supporter and defender of the free enterprise system, believing that the amount of money one makes is directly proportional to how many people they serve. He's also an unapologetic animal fanatic. Over here, me too, and serves on the board of trustees of Furry Friends Adoption and Clinic in his town of Jupiter, Florida. So everyone, welcome Bob. And so we'll get into introductions of the panel first. What I'd like the panel, our panel guests to do is introduce themselves both to the viewing audience and to Bob so that he can really know where they are in their authoring career, or authoring journey as I like to call it, and where we can really apply the conversation today to hopefully spark a turnaround or spark a change for either someone on the panel or yourself or anyone who's in the viewing audience today. So I'm going to start with Laura Gadina. Remember to unmute yourself, and then let us know where you are and what you're doing, and if there is anything specific that we can touch on today within your authoring journey.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me. Hello, Bob. Hello, everyone. So my name is Laura Gadina, and I live in Sandy Hook, Newtown, Connecticut. I'm a soul body health coach and work with mostly women around emotional eating, their body image, relationships to body and food is really the big part, and I use some certain techniques that are rather unique, not so much heard of. It's called systemic constellation work, and really looks at the relationship issues, also in the ancestral lineage and family background. So yes, and I'm really starting my journey as an author and speaker. I did present my work already at the North American conference in San Diego last year, and would love to continue presenting this work, offering it to as many people as possible as I get the feedback that it's really powerful to look at it. Thank you.
Very nice.
Awesome. And Adam, welcome back again.
Thank you, Debbie. It's great to be back. Hi, Bob.
I
Nice to
am.
meet you. As I mentioned the last time, I worked with Debbie recently to publish a book on Amazon. It was a short ebook for learning Japanese, and I've
For what?
also, aside from that, for learning Japanese.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Not that I'm an expert, but I really enjoy learning. I do work with languages for one of my freelance jobs. But aside from that, I've independently curated, written, and self-published. Now I believe it's 10 ebooks on my website, and now I'm starting to move into the speaking and running workshops phase of things, and got some exciting opportunities on the horizon there. So I'm excited about that.
Perfect. Fantastic.
Fantastic. And for myself, I've mentioned that I am an aspiring book author, and I've done some publishing, but really, I look to do a lot more speaking in my future. And I find it's not that difficult to actually book speaking engagements, but I'm always looking for more tips and support and encouragement in that area. So that's where I'll be asking you for, Bob. Let's see if we can get Yinka in. Hopefully, he was having some audio troubles. It doesn't look like he's back with us yet. Oh, hello, Yinka.
Okay, I think I finally got in on my iPod. Is it better?
Fantastic. It definitely, the audio is much better. You'll be much better able to participate, even though the video is, don't look at the video because it might make us, it might give us a little bit of motion sickness or something.
Okay.
Wait, I was trying to hit your camera and I hit my own. I got caught. Okay, so Yinka, if you can, please, I'm sorry that you missed the introduction to Bob and to Laura and to Adam, but if you don't mind, please tell the audience and Bob as well what it is that you've been doing recently with your book authoring journey. So are you speaking on stage, and how are you speaking, and what sort of what sort of experiences and growth are you looking to achieve in the future?
Okay, my background is actually, I don't know, is the audio better?
Yes, the audio is much better.
Much better, okay. My background actually is oil and gas. And I have worked, therefore, as an oil and gas consultant for upwards of about 20 years. However, in my gifting area, I've worked in a church setting where I have served over 20 years as well as a counselor, marriage counseling, relationship counseling, and that has led me into speaking on relationships over many years, speaking engagements spanning up to about 15 years. So I get called to talk on various topics on relationships. And that's what inspired, for instance, the topic I told you about, Debbie, on Sunday, which is you have a different point of view. So what? And you told me that that was a nice topic. Now, what do I see in the future? I sense that part of me is there. Every time I've had to speak on something, people rush back to me and say, "Where is your book? When is the book coming out?" And I'm actually tired of hearing that. Mm-hmm. And the books are long overdue, at least 10 years. Now, the speaking aspect of it, that goes on regularly. So I realized that, well, like Jerry is trying to open our eyes to see, I probably am sitting on a gold mine without realizing it. Mm-hmm. I've never thought about making money from this part of me because I thought it was just a gift. You know, there's a saying that freely you've received, then freely give. Yeah? And that had been the mentality over the years. And for the first time, somebody is opening my eyes to seeing how this gift can be converted to money, at least to profit. Maybe that will look after me in my older age. I'm just over, and then with that comes a lot of experience that I've gathered over the years.
Right.
I'm 57 now, 5'7", and I think perhaps now is the time to begin to develop that part of me where I may not have as much physical strength as one grows older.
Right.
But then the intellectual strength, the mind strength will still be there to give out as much as is on the inside. So this is what has brought me to where I am today and brought me to the meeting where we met in the first place, yes.
Okay,
And
we
perhaps
can
Bob,
only
Bob
see your
can help in
chest,
this area.
unfortunately. If you can angle the camera up a little bit, we can only see the bottom half of your chin.
Yeah.
Hello, there you are. Okay, so let's get into the conversation now. Let's start talking with Bob really about where do you guys want to jump off the conversation today with Bob? Do you think it's about speaking engagements or about working with traditional publishers or selling books?
I actually, one of the topics that you suggested about mentorship, I just found a mentor for myself last year after trying for several years to do so, and I found that once I found a person who seemed to get what I was trying to do and like really encouraged it in the right way, it just made a huge difference, and it finally kind of got me over a hump of I believe in me, but no one else seems to, and I found someone else who did, and so I'm really interested to hear what Bob has to say about how to go about finding a mentor, and maybe what not to do about finding a mentor.
Good question.
Well, Adam, that's a great question, because obviously having a mentor, having someone who will willingly share their experience with you and guide you along, someone who, as you said, will believe in you, sometimes more than you believe in yourself, at the moment, is always a great thing to have. One of the things I suggest to people when they ask how to go about finding a mentor, and this doesn't sound like it applies to you because you have found one, you've got one, but a lot of times people say, well, how do I go about finding a mentor? And I'll say, well, what you don't want to do is actually reach out to someone and just say, will you be my mentor?
Right.
And the reason is because a mentor-protege relationship, like any relationship, is a relationship, and it tends to take place over time. Yankee, you speak on relationships, so you know that as well as anyone.
Yes.
And so when you say to someone, hey, will you be my mentor? It's sort of like approaching someone who doesn't know you and you don't know them and just saying, hey, would you share your 40 years of experience, with me? And so forth. And so it tends to not work out that way. So what I would suggest people do when they're looking for a mentor is, by all means, find people who you relate to, you've studied, you've researched, their values are similar, they seem to know how to go about doing what you want to do, and then reach out to them in a way that you just ask, if you may ask a question. And it might be whether it's online, or it could be in person, depending upon where you are in the location, or it could be a phone call, but you let them know who you are, what you're looking to do, that you admire their work, and that you realize they're very busy, and that it will be understandable if they choose not to do this, but you would enjoy, or you'd welcome the opportunity to be able to maybe ask them a question, and then assure them it will be a very specific question, and so forth. Because what you've done there is you've respected the process. They don't think you're looking to take, 30 minutes or an hour of their time to, pick their brain and, all that stuff. And so then what I'm going to suggest is, before you ever talk to that person, make sure you've researched them well enough so that when you have the opportunity to ask a question or ask a few questions, you don't ask things that you could easily know the answer to had you just done a little bit of research.
Yeah.
So make sure that when you do ask them something, it's something that is really of value and that they understand you have carefully and selectfully determined what you were going to ask because you respect their time as well as their own. You know, at the end of the conversation, you thank them, you let them know that you're looking forward to applying it, and you'll, you know, that if it's okay, I'd like, you know, I'll be in touch and let you know how things have gone. What I would then suggest is that very day, send them a handwritten thank you note, not an email, but a handwritten thank you note, and thank them for their time and for their counsel, and again, let them know that you will apply this immediately, and let them know how, you know, how things are going. I would also, you know, find out, again, just online, you can find out what's their favorite charity, and maybe even make it doesn't have to be big, but even a small donation in their name, which they'll be alerted to by the charity. Not that you're trying to kiss up or anything, but you're, again, letting them know that even though, yes, I realize I'm not able to add the kind of value to your life right now that you can add to mine, I respect you and I take this seriously, and I want to do my best to add value to you in a way that you see it as being of value. And, you know, and so you go like that. And what you're doing is you're just establishing a relationship. And then when you call or email next time, they're going to most likely, you know, they're going to know you respect the process, that it's going to be one or two very specific questions. And again, if it's a match, you'll find that the relationship begins to develop. And all of a sudden, you've got a mentor, and they've got a protege.
I think that's fantastic. I've been hearing a lot more recently about giving thank you notes, written thank you notes. I've been seeing that around a lot more, and it's funny because when I first started about a year and a half ago, that was a part of my marketing plan, was to reach out to people with mail, actual mail, actually sending letters to prospective clients. And I did it a little bit, but I think I'm going to be changing it into more of a handwritten note type of activity.
Great. Excellent.
So
I've actually learned from that as well. That is, I will have done an email also on a matter like that. I think I take that point away from that conversation, a handwritten note. And I also take the point that rather than give maybe some monetary gift to the mentor, but give over to their charity. I think that's a fantastic idea. That's wisdom. Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. And of course, you know, there's a time and place for everything. If you know, they talk about being a big Starbucks fan or something, you know, you can always send a gift certificate to Starbucks. So I think you know, like you say, just sort of determine what the best you know, way. To me, if a person has a charity, it's because they really believe in that cause, and they're going to see that you took the time to dig into and find out what they hold to be of value.
Yes.
It occurs to me also, Bob, when you were saying that there's really a recognition, I think, for a lot of people of that you get what you pay for in life. So when you're reaching out to someone that you want to, you know in your mind that you want to benefit from the interaction of reaching out to them, make sure that you take the time to research them properly, to know what it is that you have to offer them, where you can offer them support in the things that they're working on.
Right.
And it's really easy to see what people are working on by looking at their social channels, by looking at their website, by looking, you know, watching some of their speaking videos online. You can see what it is where you can offer them support. And that's the formula for providing value to them ahead of time in reciprocity.
Great point.
Laura, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm listening and writing, taking notes here. It's wonderful. Thank you so much. I love the idea with the charity. Never occurred to me, but it's a great idea.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
What sort of charity do you think you might work with, Laura, in related to either weight loss or to systemic constellations?
I have not looked into that.
Or maybe maybe a charity, sorry to jump on it as my brain is going, maybe a charity that, or a not-for-profit that works with body image.
You had mentioned that earlier at one point, and I've been trying to find ideas where this is already, what organization or what person is already connected to this, and it's
Dove?
It's tough. It seems like either I don't know enough of this area, which I would be surprised because this has been part of my life forever. But then again, I'm really wondering who is really out there and kind of bringing out the same message. I know of one person in Australia, but that's kind of almost it. So, well, there's another woman. She, I don't even know, I forgot her name, but she has written some books. So I know of two people who kind of promote the same understanding of what emotional eating is all about. Mm-hmm. So, but I don't think they are charities, right? They
are. No, but I'm sure that there are organizations like Dove from Unilever that that focus on body image and confidence.
I don't know that one. Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so I really want to talk about speaking engagements. Bob, what do you think? Like, I ask people this question, and everyone has a different answer. Do you need a speaker one sheet, and do you need it to be printed?
Well, these days, I mean, if you have it online, I think that's fine. When I was first starting out and speaking almost 30 years ago, everybody had a one sheet. It was a physical one sheet. It's what you sent. If you didn't have a one sheet, you weren't in business, basically. But and I still remember the days when you had to send out a videotape of your speaking. So no, the technology has certainly changed that. So I think as long as you have it online and you can direct people to it, I think that's all you need. Of course, as I say that's my response. That doesn't mean everyone else necessarily feels the same way, but I believe that's pretty much at this point, pretty much the way most speakers are operating.
Are you using a printed one sheet anymore?
No, we don't. We have everything right at this point online.
Interesting. Great. Good to know. I asked the question because I hear all varied responses, and I haven't had mine printed yet, but I really feel like I want to. I really feel like it's a tangible proof that I am a speaker. I sort of feel like when I attach it to an email or like an application, that I feel like I get back to that internet marketing sort of thing of like 1% or 2% click-through or open rate is a really strong open rate, and I'm like, oh, now I've got to spam it out to like 1,000
No, well, that depends why you're sending it, Debbie, because if you've got someone who's expecting it because you've created a relationship with that person and or they are expecting to see your material, well, the chances are they are going to open it. Just like if they received it in the regular mail, they would open it and probably not throw it away if they were expecting it. That's like anything else. But as my friend Jane Atkinson says, who's an expert in terms of positioning, marketing, and speakers, it's not that people are looking for a speaker. But typically companies are not looking for speakers. They're looking for experts in a particular field that happen to speak.
Right.
And so, it's not so much that it's you're proving that you're a speaker. What you're doing is you're communicating to them that you have information that is going to benefit them in some way by bringing the type of expertise or information to their conference, to their organization, to their company, what have you. So how you do it is simply the medium for doing so.
Having some aha moments over there.
Yes, I am. But I was going to ask Bob, does that mean that your speaking area has to be related to the need that that company may have?
Well, if you're going to speak at their conference or convention or company, sure. But you know, the question is, I mean, but that would be the case anyway. Okay, so what you're always going to want to do is discover, because discovery is always the first part of any sales process. You know, what is selling really? Selling is simply discovering what the other person wants, needs, or desires and helping them to get it. In other words, we match the benefit of our product or service with their wants, needs, and desires. And we're only able to determine that by discovering it. We only discover it by asking them questions. So,
That's true.
you know, whether it begins by asking them what they are looking to accomplish at their conference and finding out that, but also when it comes to what you do, and obviously they've got to have some interest for them to be on the phone with you in the first place, if that's how the communication is going, and then you can even ask them, what would you like to see happen as a result of my presentation? So in other words, what is the action and or abilities that he or she wants their team or their attendees or whatever to have? Now, if there's a match there, great, you communicate that. If there isn't, then obviously it's not the right engagement. But certainly it does have to, you know, what you do, the benefits that you bring must match with their goals.
Their goals, okay. Okay.
Do you find that it happens very often that you'll get on the phone with someone and find that it's not a match, or you're usually beyond that point by then?
Yeah, usually, but I'll say this. You know, I remember getting a call once from a big it was an organization holding a big conference, and they said something like, "Well, we heard you were a good speaker. Can you come in and do a program for us on time management?" And I said, "Do a program on it. I need to attend the class." So I thought of who I knew, who some of my fellow speakers were in National Speakers Association who could, who did a program like that, and I referred that out because it wasn't in my wheelhouse. Right. So yeah, I mean, at this point, typically when we're contacted or if we contact them, it's because, we know there's probably something there.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
Okay, please. What would you then recommend for someone like me? How would you help me through to be that kind of person that I'm aiming? I mean, I've never done a speaking engagement on a grand platform where I've done some platforms. I mean, like I told Debbie about the U-Turn Africa platform. That was a good one, but I wanted more of things like that. Well, the best I got out of that was somebody wanted to interview me for a newspaper article, and after my speaking, they felt the passion, they felt the push, and I got an interview with a financial business newspaper. But then I would rather I had more speaking engagements on topics and related areas that I'd love to maybe benefit from financially. How would you guide someone like me, or what would you advise someone like me should do?
Okay,
stepping out in this area.
I'm gonna give you the 30,000-foot view, since obviously time doesn't permit to go through a whole system. But know that the good news, Yinka, is that there is a system. I define a system as simply the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. In other words, if it's been proven that doing A, you'll get the desired result of B, then you know all you need to do is A, and you'll get the desired result of B. So the first thing I'm going to do is suggest that you get a book
Okay.
by Jane Atkinson that we mentioned earlier, that we mentioned Jane. The name of her book is Wealthy Speaker 2.0. It's right on her website that you can get to by going to speakerlauncher.com. And her book is The Wealthy Speaker 2.0. I also did an interview with Jane that you can listen to by going to burg.com/Jane, Jane. And she will start you out. She'll take you soup through nuts, as the saying goes, on how to first choose your lane, as she calls it. Decide what it is you're going to be speaking on, and choose your niche. To whom are you going to be serving? And you start very narrowly like that. And then, you know, what you do in order to position yourself as the expert, how you have the conversation. So the good news is absolutely it can be done. Then I would join. Are you in Canada or the U.S.?
I'm in Canada.
Okay, so Canada has the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, which is CAPS. For those of you watching who are in the U.S., there's NSA, National Speakers Association, and many of the CAPS speakers come to the NSA convention. But I would get information on that and join, because what that will do is it will put you around a whole bunch of other professional speakers, some of them already very, very successful, some of them making the climb, and so forth. And so you'll get to hear a lot of great talks and learn a lot of fantastic information and network with a lot of other successful speakers. So all those things. Now, what I would do in the meantime, though, too, is you know, I would start to speak at every local group, every civic club and organization, every business group, every women's organization, every entrepreneurial everywhere that you can, and just get your rep down, okay? Just get down that 20 to 30 to 40 minutes so that you just have it. And, you know, I did hundreds of talks for free before I ever spoke for a fee. And I know that there were many that did a lot more than I did for free. So there's nothing like putting in that practice and really getting it down. So so I mean, I think that's a place to start. But I would definitely get Jane's book and listen to that interview if you'd like, and you'll find that beneficial. Hi, is that your cat?
Yes, she loves to be on the desk, and I have no problem with it so long as she doesn't like eject or stop the broadcast or.
No, she's welcome to join us.
Yes, I
think I saw Laura's cat in the background too.
I can never turn her away.
She does come by.
She demands her attention.
Soundly, right to the
Yeah. Well, she was taking a nap earlier, but she likes to join the party.
Bob, I do have a question now with this speaking and getting into the groove. Would that be that I create my signature talk that I can just expand? You know, it comes with a little. Whatever, I can extend it or shorten it, but that it's really basically always the same, and I present it to just different groups of people, or do I always try, I mean, obviously, in some sort, you do probably try to still look what's the outcome this group is looking for, right? In what way would you say it's a written script and it's going to be the same thing all over again, or how much does it fluctuate?
Yeah. Well, you know, and it's funny. Michael Port, in his book, Steal the Show, and that's a wonderful, wonderful book on how to speak. Michael Port, the name of the book is Steal the Show, and he says, and this is something I've always believed, and I was taught this first by Bill Gove, one of the greatest speakers of all time, to absolutely memorize your speech. You know, you write it out. You wouldn't go to a Broadway play or any play and expect that the actors were going to be winging it night after night.
Right.
So,
or that they would be doing a fresh play night after night.
Exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, I would have your speech down. I'd have that core, 20, 30 minute, 40 minute, whatever it is you want it to be. And I would have that so down. And sure, the more you know that speech, the more it's in your head and in your heart, the more you just know it, the more you can go off script if you need to, because you're speaking in front of
True.
a specific group, because you know
Yes.
it well enough that you can then come back to it. You don't have to be worried about, okay, what was I supposed to say next? So
Yeah.
I would have that speech written out, memorized, and do it hundreds and hundreds of times, and you'll have it.
Yeah.
When I
Mm.
first started speaking on social media in 2009, 2010, I mostly was doing workshops, not really like keynote presentations, and I would always completely redo my presentation from scratch for every presentation. And so I could only speak a few times a year, and it was hours upon hours. It was torture for me to properly prepare for a presentation. I was never properly prepared. I could never really present it well. And it was only until I started to understand about that you can really you can have the one main message that changes just slightly in angle that makes it 100% right for the new audience. And you just keep on changing your audience every single time. So you're talking to fresh people. That way your speech is never stale.
Well, you make a great point. One of the old pros in the business, I remember when I first got, about 30 years ago, it wasn't quite that long, but 27, 28 years ago, I heard a guy named Ira Hayes, one of the real granddaddies of the speaking business. And he said, somebody asked him about, writing new talks, and he said, well, in all my years of speaking, I've always found it easier to find a new audience than a new talk. And I think that's great advice.
Probably more valuable too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So tell me, Bob, has there ever been a time in your speaking career where you stepped off of the stage, or a few weeks or a few days go by and you think, wow, I really screwed that up? Has there ever been an experience where you've really screwed it up on stage?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that? Just so that I know recently I was thinking about it, I was like, oh my God, I screwed that one up so badly.
Well, several times I just know I didn't connect with the audience. I may have said the right word. The audience connection just wasn't there.
Right.
And, that's on me. It's on the speaker.
So what do you think it was that stood between you and connecting with the audience? Was it your preparation, or if like you're putting it on yourself, so obviously there could be something else you could have done differently?
Well, maybe I should have been a little more attentive as to whether the audience was kind of really getting the message and whether they were taking it in. Maybe I should have stopped what I was doing and asked a question along the way, or what have you. And sometimes it's just not an audience you connect with. But my feeling is, if you're being paid to speak, you owe it to the client and you owe it to the audience to be able to connect. So,
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, and that's where all of the practice giving free presentations comes into play.
Yes.
I feel like I have a responsibility to do a lot of free presentations for the people that are hiring me to speak, because they don't want me stepping up on their stage without any practice or without any experience or without knowing how people respond to the things that I'm going to say.
Sure. One thing we do is, when we have a client who retains me for a talk, is Kathy, my business partner, and I will get on the phone with them, and we do a fairly in-depth diagnostic, in a sense, and we really learn everything about their company. In fact, I'm often, Kathy is often told by the client afterwards that that they were amazed that Bob knew so much more about their company than most of their employees knew about their company. But that's by design. I have to, because I'm not part of it, and so I have to know. And so, my goal is always to find out what is going to connect with them, what is going to be there that they need to hear, and be able to work that in naturally, so it doesn't sound contrived. But these are things that you learn as you go along, and you don't have to put pressure on yourself to, when you're first starting out to, master that yet. But again, that's why it's so important to know your material, because to the degree you know your material, you're competent and you can go off that and then come back on, without any fear or trepidation.
A really good example that I saw not too long ago was in someone's Facebook feed. They've shared a video of Jim Carrey doing a commencement address. And he was speaking to some sort of school that I got the idea that they might be a naturopathic medicine school, because he was talking about, he was telling inside jokes about Ayurvedic medicine at the beginning of this commencement presentation. And Jim Carrey is not a doctor. Of course, he's a Hollywood celebrity. And what really impressed me about that was how well he was able to speak like he knew about Ayurvedic medicine. And it shocked me to hear this in such a general area, but it wasn't a general area. I'm just the general audience.
Well, he's a pretty sharp guy. He has some potential to possibly make it in the business.
Yeah, potential. Still untapped, though, I'm sure. I think that that's a great subject, though, is potential. And one of the things that I spend quite a bit of time exploring recently in business is how we all have potential that seems to be untapped, and where do we find proof of those resources within us? Because certainly it's not coming to us as much as we would need for us to be able to fully accept it or embrace it or see it. And I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on, how do we tap our own potential more? How do we help other people realize their potential and take steps towards it?
One thing that I've found helpful is that whenever, I may get feedback from people infrequently, but when I get it and it's good, I try to remember it. So what I've started to try to do is to, whenever I see people doing something that I think is really good, and maybe it seems like they're not completely convinced, like they're still trying to convince themselves, then I'll make a point to try to go out of my way to say, hey, that is cool. I'm glad you're doing that. Please keep going. And it's always appreciated, and it'll encourage them to keep working on it.
That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, I think I like to totally agree with what Bob just said. I mean, what drove me to wanting to write a book, for instance, or wanting to write books, and wanting to get deeper into my speaking capacity, is the fact that people keep coming back to me to give me feedbacks. So I think feedbacks help. I mean, there's hardly any time I've spoken that I've not gotten someone walk up to me to say, where is the book on this? There must be a book out on what you've just spoken about. So I know and I know and I know that the potential for writing is in there. It's been waiting to be expressed. Yeah, that's one way to definitely pull potentials out. And it also helps someone who perhaps had never really believed in himself to begin to appreciate that, oh, there might be something in there. I remember when I was to start teaching at all in the church setting, and I was trepidating. I mean, my whole legs were shaking, my hands were shaking, but at the end of it, somebody walked up to me and said, you just blessed me. There were things you said that I never thought were possible, but you just blessed me. And I'm like, well, you mean in all my shaking, somebody found something worthwhile? And that actually encouraged me to keep at it. And I must say that the shaking has stopped now. So it's, but then what got me there is a feedback from someone who felt what I said.
Well, like Adam said,
Helped
that
them.
makes a big difference when you encourage someone who maybe they don't expect it and they're having doubts, and there may be a spark that they
Yes.
see inside themselves, but they have doubt that they have some doubts, as we all do as human beings.
We
So when
all do.
another person
Yes.
comes over and says, "Hey,
Yes.
you're right on the mark. Keep it up. You've got what it takes."
Yes.
Those little things.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just something I've seen very commonly amongst my friends. Some of whom are, they have aspirations. Some of them maybe don't, but just a lot of us, we do doubt ourselves, and we kind of form these little groups of friends for like support. But just people don't expect to get feedback because it's so rare. So if you actually go out of your way to tell them that you noticed what they did, then it just makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It does. It does.
Do you know, Bob, of any sort of resources like a mastermind group for speakers, or?
Well, I know there are a lot of speakers who do have their own mastermind group, so they're always being found. Now, I know that on Facebook there's a page, the National Speakers Association has a page for speakers that you don't have to be a member of NSA to be part of that. I don't know if CAPS does or not, but I assume, the Canadian Association, I assume they do as well. So I would look on Facebook for groups of speakers.
Yeah, I was going to mention that earlier. I really love the NSA group on Facebook. I find it very encouraging. And really on Facebook, all you have to do is just type speaker into the search bar, and you'll see all sorts of hugely populated groups, very, very busy. But for myself, I find that those speakers pages on Facebook at the start, they were good, and I felt like encouraging to me. But more recently, I have felt like they're just so busy and almost so overwhelming of people speaking here and there and all over the place, and it's kind of like I need to take some time away and just, focus on my message and my making sure that I'm giving to my audience rather than building the authority and the positioning and the image behind or in front of my career.
Well, I think you got to do both. I don't think it's an either or. I think you're always looking to, you're always marketing, always selling, always positioning. Certain platforms are the time and place for it, and others are not. I think on a speaker's site, while you do have some self-promotion there, I think I think a speaker's site is best utilized when people are simply asking informational questions. And what happens there is you'll find that people are very, very willing to share their knowledge. And I think when you do that, you'll then find some people who you really feel a connection with, and those are the people you can kind of ding offline or outside the group and see about, masterminding with them and some others. So, that's how those things start.
Absolutely. I've experienced that myself, in that is exactly how you establish really strong relationships on Facebook, is you just get into helpful conversations with people in groups and on pages, and then connect with them privately and continue the relationship.
Fantastic.
Great. So why don't we, if there's any last minute, closing out comments that anyone wants to make, why don't we summarize the show? And what I'd like to hear from each of the guests and from Bob as well is really what did you get out of this conversation the most this afternoon? And I'll start with Adam. Adam, sorry.
Okay, yeah. So, I've jotted down several things in this conversation, which I'm really happy about. So, like I said, I really want to get more into speaking and running workshops and connecting with people in person. And so now I've got some really good leads to follow up on that, because I've been emailing different people and trying to find certain things. And I think this will really help out with that. So I think this has been very good for me moving a step closer to my goals.
Fantastic. And Laura?
Yes, I definitely took away to speak as just, to offer as many speaking whatever engagements as possible in local groups, to start out, just get out there and really just do it, and then have the refine and refine the script of the talk. I really think that is key, and get comfortable with the presented content. And I'm just looking at my notes here. There was another thought I had. Oh yes, I really thought companies don't look for speakers; they look for expertise, and that's, I think, an interesting little shift of how you do your introduction to a company or to another institution. How you present yourself, not as a speaker, but hey, there's expertise here. So that's really helpful. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, I really like that point. I'm taking notes as well. Yinka. So what did you take away from the conversation?
Is that me now? Is that my turn?
Yes.
Oh, okay. First of all, I'd like to say to Bob, thank you. My wife actually has a number of your books. For some reason, I haven't gone on her shelf to pull one or two of them out, but the minute I mentioned your name, that I was going to be in this group chat, she was very excited. She should have been with us, but she is with our daughter. So I have this one.
My regards.
I want to say I learned that the free speaking I'd done to date was not a loss, because you had mentioned it as well, that it's good to have been able to do that severally, and then before you and be a master, be an expert in that area, so that when you get called upon, they know you're offering expertise in that area, and it's constant speaking that gets you there. Then I took note of endeavoring to speak without a script. I've found myself doing that. I come with a script, all right, but I've found myself, I had kind of grown into a place where I leave the script on the podium and walk into the audience to actually have a connection with my listeners. And so I know that it's somewhere in there. Oh, by the way, is that a good idea to leave your script and then walk into the audience? Is that a good way?
Well, I would rather you didn't need the script at all, because you've already got it memorized. But if you do have to have some notes there to keep you on track at first, sure. You just have some notes, and you can put it on the lectern if you need it there, just to kind of refer to. But by and large, you want to get to the point where you just don't even need to have a written script.
Correct.
Because you know the topic.
Exactly. So that's a takeaway for me. And
Thank you.
the takeaway again is the Jane Atkins book, which I'm going to endeavor to get, Wealthy Speaker 2.0. So I'm going to get that, and then and also CAPS, the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. Those are all takeaways for me. Thank you very much. It's been very, very worthwhile.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. And for myself as well, like I actually want, as I mentioned at the top of the conversation, I want to do more professional speaking, more paid speaking, and get more experience with that, and move more into a lifestyle of being a professional speaker. So I'm looking to travel more for my speaking, and really just received an email inquiry this morning about a speaking opportunity in Hong Kong this spring. So I'm very excited to be having a conversation with them tomorrow about that opportunity. And the questions that you gave us earlier in the conversation, asking them about what is it that they're actually looking to accomplish from the conference, and also what would they like to see happen as a result, or what action would they like the audience to be taking the benefit, to take away. And that will be really valuable, I think, for me in the likelihood that I can make this work, because however it works out is on my responsibility. So as much as I can do that, I'm super excited. So thank you so much for that, Bob.
Yeah,
my pleasure.
Great. And now, maybe you know a lot, but do you take anything away from this sort of conversation, having it with us? Is there any way that it benefits you?
Always. It reminds me of things that I need to know about. I get to hear different viewpoints and so forth. So yeah, I always learn. Every time I speak or interview or what have you, I think I learn as much as everyone else.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so glad that you were here, and I'm really a big fan. I really enjoyed, as I told you in the past, I really enjoyed the experience of reading Adversaries to Allies, which was the book that introduced me to you. And for me, it was the experience of reading it, because I really love the way that it's written in very short chapters, and it's almost like little ideas to think about as you go along. And I sort of found the experience to be very much like seeing some of the most qualified and expert therapists that I've ever seen in my life, where I'm paying them a huge amount of money to go sit with them for just a short period of time each week. And as I go through my week, I keep on thinking about, well, what did she say? She said that, this, and I have to think about that. And that's what I really loved about Adversaries to Allies, because it feels like you're coming with me to help me through these situations as I move forward in my week and, as in my life, because I'm one of those people, like I suppose, like all of us, I look to attract allies, but I sometimes create adversaries. And so it's very helpful to have someone like you, Bob, with us again.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here, and it was great meeting everyone. I wish each and every one of you the best of success.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Goodbye,
And
everybody.
thanks, Debbie, for getting me into this. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You can all stay on the broadcast if you want. I'm just going to end the